So, ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are. We are live once again. Welcome. This is your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman. And we are here on the Abby Kaufman Show at democracyradionetwork.com. And of course, you talk, we listen to the degree we can. And the number here is 949 629 3820. And let's make sure the old phone lines are open. Yes, the phone lines are open. So we feel free to give us a call at your convenience. We are Democracy Radio Network, and we are dedicated to electing Democrats, and more Democrats in 2026, 2028, and beyond. We are coming to you live and in color. How about that? From our secret undisclosed location on Newport Harbor, Newport Beach, California. And of course, we want to welcome right to a super Monday. We hope your Monday's getting off to a good start. And, I just, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to some of our new friends, Democrats abroad Europe, in the UK, and Scotland, and France, and Switzerland. Hey guys, we appreciate you tuning in and hope to chat with you soon. And now it's about time to get down. I was going to say get down and get funky, but we're just going to kind of get down with what's going on in the political world. Ooh, I'm always happy to hear that. So, guys, as I said, it's Monday, July 13th. And where are we? Man's been pondering that question for centuries. But where we are is getting, we're in a hole that's getting deeper. Usually, according to, the first rule is if you find yourself in a hole, quit digging. But Trump's just incapable of learning. And so it's kind of like another incompetent day on steroids from that guy. And, let's just talk for a second about Iran. And my mother was not the sharpest woman in the world, but she was really bright though. I mean, she's really smart and classically trained concert pianist. She's an accomplished person, but her thought was, kind of that she would love to buy Trump for what he's worth and sell him for what he thinks he's worth. Uh, I'm sure you kind of get that idea. But anyway, even my mother got the notion about if you're in a hole, quit digging. And it looks to me as though Iran is not exactly, it looks like the hole is getting deeper because Trump keeps digging. And like I said, well, my mom was she could have been Mensa. Even she knew that when you're in a hole, the first thing you need to do is quit digging. But you see, with Trump, he's incapable of planning. So he just reacts. And what I was going to tell you about my mother was she always drummed in my head that failing to plan is planning to fail. And in that regard, I'm going to suggest that not a whole lot of this stuff is going to go away quickly. I say we're really glad to know what's going on in the with Democrats abroad. But like I said, let's get to this Iran problem and not and no planning or insufficient and inadequate planning. And it's my perception that every human is capable of absorbing knowledge at their level. They clearly can't go any faster, and God knows they can only go slower. So you've got this knowledge that's out there that people try to present to Trump, and he's just incapable of understanding, whether it's age, what's that, cerebral arteriosclerosis, when those old brain arteries in the brain start to harden up a little bit. And another thing, I just want to kind of mention this in passing, but what about that new pharmaceutical that the president got? I hate calling him president. I'd much rather call him that orange tinged subhuman being that occupies the White House, because I do feel that's a little more appropriate. But let's assume that the story is true and that he did get a medication late. Then he was able to. His reason for requesting it was compassionate use, or that's what it was designated, compassionate use. So, of course, the question is that begs the question: for what? Compassionate use for what? And usually, it's been the record that when somebody gets something for compassionate use, that pretty much indicates they're in like the last 6 to 12 months of living. And I think that's official hospice period. I think you can get hospice services maybe a year out, but yeah, I can only imagine. General was named Dan Kane, of the Korean military officer. These guys know how to plan for a war and how to execute a war. What they can't do is execute a war with somebody else trying to also execute the war, and they have more power, but they suck. They're just incapable. So as it stands now, Trump says the truce is over, and get this: that the U.S. is going to uh, escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz for a 20% charge. Now, you got to laugh at this for a few different reasons. Number one, there's never told before, it's just kind of understood to be an international waterway. So the mere fact of Trump extorting is just conforms to his character, because Tom Friedman said something like the new Monroe Doctrine, making fun of James Monroe and the Monroe Doctrine. The Trump Doctrine was that if he hates you, he'll tariff you. And if you need him, he'll extort you, right? And I'm going to just kind of go back to so Trump is sitting there with the notion of U.S. escorting for 20%. And it's going to cost the shippers money, so I don't see how that helps. The fact of the matter is, we'll never be able to put this place back together again. The destruction has been so ineffective, and there's a ton of it, but it's just ineffective. He cannot, Iran just beat us before the world. And while the press over here is probably going rah, 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 go, good on you and all this, that's not what they're seeing overseas in the Financial Times or Le Monde, or, whatever European newspapers you tend to look at. So what do we do? What do you do when you got an idiot in charge? And the truth of the matter is, sometimes there just ain't a whole lot to do. And the reason is, we as Democrats have none, zip, zero, nada, whatever it is, no power in Washington. We have the power of the minority, which, is not much at all. What we want to be and what we need to be is in the majority. And not only that, it'd be really nice to have enough to be nice to have 60 senators, 60 Democratic senators, just to be able to pass things on the required 60 vote basis. And you'd have to think with Lindsey Graham is out. God only knows who will be his replacement. Uh, but Lindsey Graham is out, and Mitch McConnell is he's got to be hanging on for dear life. And I hope there aren't many Weekend at Bernie's fans out there. But if you are, give me a call, 949-629-3820, and let me know whether you thought the image lived up to it. I'm kind of sure you think it will. Okay, so Iran, and let's not forget, and I'm going to use I'm going to use Kiev to show you that extortion thing. And if you remember way back when, Trump is talking to Zelensky. Zelensky's asking for weapons that have been promised. And Trump says something like, before we deliver that, Vladimir, old pal, old buddy, old friend of mine, I need a little favor. How would you feel about digging up some dirt on my opponent, Joe Biden, and then we'll see about getting that award to you. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, what do you, it's just blatant extortion, and it's how the guy operates. Uh, like I keep saying this, but without power in Washington, you got bupkis. And the only thing worse than having bupkis is skadukas, because skadukas is like 10 bupkises. So either way, without any power, we either get bupkis or skadukas, or, you know, God knows what we get. So that's job number one, is vote, vote, vote. I can't, God, you guys, I wish I could say it stronger. I wish I could reward you somehow. I wish I could motivate you somehow, which I'm desperately trying to do, to realize that this is not, you know, usually if somebody does something 45 times the same way, and all of a sudden you get one or two things that vary significantly, usually it's the 45 time consistency people who had it right, and not the two-term quick fix guys. And when you think about Trump and quick fixes, that's kind of what he does. Like I said, he's, guys like him would put a coat of paint on a house or something, and then go ahead and claim it's been remodeled from the studs out. So the really central problem we have in it's squarely Donald Trump, because look at the NATO visit a few days ago. Everybody just kind of was hoping to, just kind of have a decent, let's not get too riled up meeting. And before you know it, Trump goes on, and on, and concludes with a Greenland should be part of the United States. How many times do you need to hear something a particular way before it sinks in? Now, I'm going to assume the harder your head, the longer it takes to sink in. And by that basis, Trump's just either a blockhead or poop for brains. I try not to cuss on this show, but I think poop for brains would be a little more accurate. Uh, so now, with that established, you would try to convert some of his enablers, or try to persuade those guys to not let him do. I think it'd be really interesting after November, because that'll tell the tale what the next couple of years will look like in DC. And like I said, I had made this little poem up the other day, and it went something like, "We'll beat them so badly, they'll be screaming for mommy. They were expecting a blue wave and got a blue tsunami." So, guys, let's think blue tsunami. And being in California, it's really easy to preach being a Democrat and Democrat values and principles. But I think if you look a little deeper, particularly you guys in the South, you'll see that the things the Democrats advocate are parallel, on point, couldn't be any more on point with what Jesus wanted people to do. Keep in mind, it wasn't called Christianity until after him. So, and Trump's got the who can I say? Oh, the Pope is the head of 1.4 billion people, more or less. And I'm just going to use that as an example of continuity. And we've seen popes take on different causes at different points in time, but they still handle the papacy the same. But see, Trump just breaks things. And there was a quote from Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, and Mooch says, it's all the same. He's just the king of unfinished products. He knocks down the East Wing, so that's unfinished. He knocks down what was it? Iran's unfinished. It's just, everything he touches is just an unfinished project. And it's kind of good because Scaramucci made the point that whatever Trump touches turns to dog poop. So, guys, I can't ask you anymore to please join your local Democrat club. If you can join more, a small donation to your favorite candidates would be really nice. The way I see it is this is our chance to be unified when we really need it. Um, you know, I was always amazed that people didn't jump for Kamala Harris as an alternative because I would have thought any Democrat would do. But apparently, there are some people that don't quite see it that way. And regrettably, I actually know a guy like this, and I had asked him. He's like 85 ish, and I said, John, you're a good man, raised Catholic. How do you bring yourself to vote for this guy? And with a straight face, the guy says, "Oh, well, I believe he's a better businessman." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then I am really lucky because I did a little background research in this, and I have like a 4-page printout of Trump financial blunders. So of course I could ask him which one or what combination of these blunders led you to believe that he was a financial genius. And like I say, as time goes on, we've seen the Trump playbook. It's bully, 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 force, force, force. And since the only tool he has is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And that's why when he goes back, well, we'll bomb Iran more if they bomb the ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, my brother has this expression. Well, how's that working out for you, Donald? You don't have the intelligence or the intellectual curiosity. You don't have the intelligence to know, and you don't have the intellectual curiosity to ask and take it seriously. And when you go making votes based on your gut as opposed to information, well, in some ways, what else did people expect? If you're clearly the smartest guy that walked into any given room, then you probably know it all, and you probably don't need much advice. So, in that situation, if a decision is made without advice and consideration, or what the Mayachi brothers would call uh, uh, not not encumbered by the mental process, then you get this kind of stuff. And like I say, everything looks like a nail. So he keeps bombing and bombing and bombing. He keeps sending ICE people out, and they kill people. And there's never any acknowledgement of wrongdoing. And this alleged perfection that he seeks to portray is just crumbling. I mean, if somebody wondered what the expression "the emperor has no clothes," if they ever wonder what that means, I think I can make a little presentation for them that we've got. And let's go back to this cognitive decline thing. Oh, and one more thing before we go any further. Did the picture of Mitch McConnell in the hospital with his wife, how many people, kind of saw that and thought Weekend at Bernie's? Yeah, I know, probably way too many, but, that's what we're dealing with. And I could go on and on about this, but like I said, let's join some Democrat clubs. Let's vote, vote, vote. Let's roll those Republicans in 2026 and 2028. And let's get down to really the local grassroots level. I'm talking city council. I'm talking school board. And I'm all in on the school board races as well as the race for superintendents of education. I think that kids didn't ask to be brought into the world, so we really owe them. And and actually, it's funny because Trump made sure they owed even more when he added 3.8 trillion to the deficit by himself. And what did that fund? Yeah, absolutely nothing. Just kind of a gift to his rich buddies. But let's get back to the some of the local races. I know in Costa Mesa there are, I think 3 seats open, and I met them all the candidates, and there are 2 I'd like to mention right away. The first one is Dr. Kelly Brown, and Kelly is an absolutely stellar person. Uh, Professor at UCI. She's worked with big numbers and big economies and big scale, and she's just I mean she's really overqualified, which means we're really lucky to have her running. So I would give Kelly Brown a shout out. Of course, Kara Stewart, I would have to give a shout out to. Uh, and she's extremely invested in the community in Costa Mesa. I think Kelly's District 3 and Kara's District 5. But let's kind of zoom out on that. The other day, I had occasion to interview a fellow named Donald Torres, and Donald is on the city council in Stanton, California. And I had asked him, what do you, what's on your agenda to do when you get reelected? And these are the people that really tackle the local problems. It's your council that kind of decides homeless, policies and issues and what to do. Um, so it's really nice to make sure that on that fundamental level, that basic neighborhood level, that we have a really great representation. And not only that, those sorts of elected offices may well open the door to other political offices. And while I'm not completely crazy about having a professional uh, legislative class, I kind of get it also. So let's keep those guys alive. And Donald Torres, Stanton, I think that was District 1. And I said, one of the top things that Donald mentioned was an approach to homelessness. And guys, nobody's a stranger to that anymore. And I always remind people where it came from, because in any given problem, I've always found it helpful to go back to the source and identify the problem, and or identify some of the root causes of the problem. And in the homeless case, blame, and I just say blame. You can say responsibility, but I'll say blame for the situation rests squarely on the Republicans. Great Hope, the great communicator, the great actor from Bedtime with Bonzo, Ronald Reagan. And Reagan had been governor of California. He's been active in politics for a while, kind of a Barry Goldwater kind of guy. Uh, but he may have had some intellectual curiosity when he stayed awake. But the older we get, that's much harder, especially for those kind of politicians that aren't particularly gifted in the first place. Okay, and now let's talk about school board from Laguna Beach. There was Joan, I want to say her name was Malczewski, Malczewski, I think. And there was also a woman, Shaheen. I keep forgetting her last name to save my soul. But those two are clear up and comers. So they clearly deserve a turn at the wheel. And guys, isn't that what democracy is all about? It's about having different people compete for the right to lead the country. And we all depend on people being honest to some degree, to do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. And you guys it's really lousy, but Trump was he said he was going to come in with a retribution list or revenge list, and damn if he didn't. Now, keep in mind, Kamala Harris had promised to come in with a to-do list, which would have been infinitely more productive. But for whatever reason, you guys chose to vote for Trump. Oh, so back to Reagan. Anyway, so what does Reagan do? Reagan, in a budget cutting move, not unlike, I guess it'd be an early version of Doge, Reagan decides that he's going to close all the mental hospitals at which people were incarcerated involuntarily. And so if you went to the I guess to the asylum, whatever it is, on your own, you'd be okay. But if some judge says, I think you need to go to the facility, then there's nothing to be said. So Trump throws them out on the street, and guess what he does? And now, ordinarily, you would think that somebody that had taken away somebody's housing or something would do a little something and provide some sort of pathway to frankly to getting out of the hole they're in. But no, what does Trump do after lets these people out of the asylums? Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He cut the Section 8 subsidized housing. So now these people were on the streets with no place to go. And it's 40 years later, and the problem just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I mean, every time a decent, uh, uh, what can I say, a decent homeless plan comes out, there's always somebody criticizing the costs and this, that, and the other. And what I think the people that want to solve this problem need to realize is, number one, we all know the scale of the problem. It's huge. And clearly, we can't deal with everybody at once. And I would like to propose that maybe instead of making people work for Medicare, Medicaid, or somehow, uh, let's try to salvage the highly functional homeless. And let's maybe build a small home community where everybody has their own lock and key in their own bathroom. I mean, I think if you get offered any given homeless person his own place and a bathroom, I think most of them, you'd be surprised how many would take it. So, and maybe there'd be like community jobs or something, and if it had to be kind of like a you wouldn't want necessarily a factory town because you don't want any 13th Amendment involuntary servitude problems. Um, but if we can take care of the functional people and get them producing, at least we've made life better for lots of people. And that puts us in a position to tackle the really hardcore homeless issue. And it's my opinion that it's going to almost take one-on-one contact to, to chat with these people and to persuade them to, that there is a better way. And I think that a little human kindness would go a long way. And like I say, regardless, it's a problem we need to address. It certainly doesn't help anybody's city or town or environment. But on the other hand, sometimes people just have no place to go. I mean, I have coffee at Starbucks every morning. I go to the gym, exercise, hang out, sauna for a few minutes, go to stop and get a bagel, go to Starbucks, have coffee with my bagel. And every morning I get there around, I don't know, 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. They open it either 4 or 4:30. And you see people that have been there since, 4 or 4:30. And there's even one guy who stays like a minimum of 12 hours. If he gets there at 4 in the morning, you can count on this guy staying until 4 at night or 4 in the afternoon. And while that, clearly gives him a place to go, I would like to think people generally choose the best option available. And apparently hanging out at Starbucks for 12 hours is the best this guy can do. So salvageable or not, I don't know. But my point is that there's just no escaping it. And if anybody thinks this can be done on the cheap, I'd really like to show you some land for sale in Florida when the tide goes out, because this is a 40+ year problem. It's not going to be easy to solve, and it's going to be expensive. And frankly, that's almost the part that bothers me more than anything else. Is the money that's being spent to take care of this problem. But again, why do governments not exist to take care of their citizens? I think that's exactly why government exists, to take care of their citizens. Of course, that's open to interpretation, and the Republicans consistently think that a big Defense Department budget will do it. But no, this is just different, guys. This is I say almost a one-on-one problem. And of course, we've got to hire a homeless services agency director, and there's got to be some attorneys involved to, you know, complete the land purchase and then negotiate whatever you can negotiate with the tiny house people. Uh, but like I say, we need to lead the way in this. We can't be content, even though Trump has whittled away education and research and in tons of universities. In California, we're still lucky. More, more or less, we've still got Cal State, Cal Berkeley. We still have Stanford. We've got UCLA. We've got USC. We have the sixth or seventh largest economy in the world, so we can stand on our own. And when people can refuse to come up with an answer, then it's incumbent upon us to provide one. And if we can persuade the other side to vote for it, great. If not, we tried. And the truth of the matter is, some people just don't want to mess with it. If it doesn't bring them money, it doesn't. They just don't mess with it. Matter of fact, I know a guy who was in the military, started a publicly traded medical equipment company, and Lear, you know, jet, $100 million net worth. I said this thing's publicly traded. Uh, and we were talking one morning, and I'd always respected this guy, because when you are I guess a commander or whatever in the army, like in Vietnam, if you're a commander, you might be responsible for 100 lives. So it's all really intense and personal to get someone to change their way of living. Um, and I say some people can make the change, some people can't. But we are California, and we have great people, we have smart people, and we have land. You may not find it in a really crowded urban area, but there's room to do that too. Maybe in crowded areas, you have like some of those extended stay places, extended stay motels, whatever they are, and try to get people some stability. I actually think that that's the key thing to help anybody turn anything around is you have to give them a stable environment to work in so they don't flip out at every little thing. And we can do this. California can do this. Like I say, no matter, my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina, as they celebrate the passing of Lindsey Graham, I'm thinking, what a weasel. The guy nailed Trump at first and then refused to stand up to it. Uh, and that's how Trump leads. He doesn't plan, or he's incapable of planning. Um, and I'm sure you guys have heard the James Carville prediction. And if you haven't, I'll go ahead and share it with you. Oh, but before I give you the James Carville position, I'm going to invite someone to call in. Give us a call, 949-629-3820. And we'd love to hear from some of our Democrats abroad people. How are things in Zurich right now? Or how about that old UK, Scotland, um, the land of Robert Bruce? And so, and on the Scots, the ones who gave us Presbyterianism. And if you meet a real Presbyterian, real Scot, uh, what was it, first Scot, second Presbyterian, something like that, you will be getting a quality individual that works hard. And anyway, I just thought I'd kind of pass that along. So that's where we are, Iran, and it's just we'll never get out. If we because the default goes to Iran. And, you know, we both know, or no, we both, all of us know what Trump was thinking when he did this. Oh, well, another quick Venezuela. Well, in Venezuela, like another unfinished project, like the East Wing, like the reflecting pool, like the war. I mean, everything is just turns into an unfinished project. And Scaramucci made the observation that that kind of thing always happens. Why? Because, as he so delicately puts it, everything Donald touches turns to poopy doo. How about that? That's a little better. Everything he touches turns to poopy doo. Uh, I mean, the guy's a whiz at bankruptcy. I don't know what the why we don't give him credit for that. I do. I'll give him credit. Excuse me, for being the most prolific bankruptcy guy in 10 states. But you know what? And it was funny. All those business ventures had the same pattern. He buys whatever it is, loads it up with debt, and then a year or so declares bankruptcy. So the banks have to write off the loan. He's got whatever it is, and of course he's fat, dumb, and happy. But nobody else is. And we see that same attitude in the White House. I really think that the Supreme Court presidential immunity case was wrongly decided. And I guarantee you, if Joe Biden was in office, that those Supreme Court justices would not have given Joe Biden the immunity that they see as necessary under the in the Trump instance. And just right there, that tells you that the judiciary that we thought was, kind of honest, we find that, well, not exactly. These guys are kind of results oriented, because don't forget, the traditional thing was it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. It's the commitment to following the rules that counted. But you've got somebody in office now who thinks rules are for idiots, that he can just do whatever he wants, which he largely can, thanks to ye old Supreme Court. And I want to kind of rail on the Supreme Court for a second or two here. And I'm sure you guys have heard about what they call originalists relative to the Supreme Court. And these are the guys that take the position that if the subject is not within the four corners of the Constitution, then it's presumed unconstitutional. And the Republicans have been working on stuff like this since 1968 or 9, by the time Nixon and Watergate and all that. And oh, by the way, just between Nixon and Trump, has any Democrat gotten in any sort of trouble like this? No. And the reason is we have a healthy respect for the rules. We are more concerned with the process, with making everything fair, than winning everything. But see, that's not the case with Trump. He's just obsessed with winning to the point of breaking the rules. And breaking the rules is what? Cheating. Thank you. It's cheating. And you can see the way the groundwork is being laid for the 2028 election. That Project 2025 from the Republicans was just devastating. They have managed to grab so many levers of power that it's really not funny. And these days, let's go out on a limb and assume Todd Blanche gets approved for Attorney General. At that point, you would have had an unbroken line of I want to say slaves or servants. That just goes from the Attorney General down to the local prosecutor, and that's his power. He's corrupted these guys from the established process. And guys, that whenever people like that do something like that, it's always for themselves. Oh, and I'm just curious, guys, has anybody actually believed anything Trump said lately? Has anybody seen prices go back to pre-war levels? And we'll see some decreases, we'll see some increases, but it's highly unlikely that things are going to get back to where they were anytime soon. And let me go back to this housing thing for a minute. And I know for a fact that a decent house in Hurricane, Utah, or Vernal, or any of those places, Laverkin. How about Laverkin? I kind of like the Laverkin Overlook. Great place to car camp if you need one. So anyway, In these small towns in Utah, a house will be, I don't know, 350 ish. Okay, so that means that he needs to earn what about $130,000 a year to pay for it, to pay the mortgage. And don't forget, that's after putting $70,000 down, because that's 20%. And they're just that the numbers are just unworkable, especially if you believe that there's going to be this huge AI disruption and you're going to have massive unemployment. Now, I would expect at that point for somebody to propose, for some Democrat to propose some sort of universal basic income, UBI, just to let people kind of keep people afloat. I mean, nobody wants riots in the streets, and I had never thought that was a possibility. Matter of fact, this friend of mine who does really well, and he spends God knows how much time in up in Puget Sound on his boat, and I don't go up there. Water's a little too cold. Uh, but he had told me a long time ago that there was a real fear of a race war. That when the old poopy doo hit the fan, that the wealthy guys were going to be under attack. And this might have been 5 or 6 years ago. And I think that's when these guys started ordering the assault weapons, a lot. The Supreme Court said you can, and we had gun control legislation for assault weapons, but between the courts and the Republicans, they let it pass, and they let it pass because of the strangest thing. The Constitution says something about well-regulated militia and the right to bear arms. Well, that had never that they what had happened was as time had progressed, the Supreme Court left out the word militia, and you would have to assume it was intentional because it served their purposes. And when they leave out militia, that means that what? You don't have to be a well-regulated militia to qualify to own the assault weapon. That means that you just have a Second Amendment right to bear arms uh, option to get the assault weapon. And various states have tried this, and I just, we need stuff like this. The fact of the matter is that the violent nature of the things Trump does and imposes encourage lousy treatment or lousy interaction between others on a everyday street level. And you see, guys, I just keep thinking that we're better than this. Uh, the damage there was a article I think this morning that said like Trump is the biggest national security threat. And would anybody doubt that? No, you wouldn't doubt that for a second, would you? Uh, you know, let's talk about this emoluments clause. How in the world do you make $2 billion when you're the president of the U.S.? Does that mean you treat it like a part-time job? Or does that mean it's just like a convenient way to stay out of jail? And the cynicism with which those guys operate mean that any one of those options could be true. How sad. And like I said, the truth of the matter is what the Europeans are saying about us is really bad. I mean, after the NATO summit last week, uh, it, they told him several times, Greenland is not for sale. Greenland is not for sale. Greenland is not for sale. So what's Trump do? Go in front of NATO and says, we want Greenland. Give it to us. And it's just such a brazen, uh, uninformed view that he espouses that's just the worst. I mean, that's why I don't want and let's kind of make up a let's tell a little story. When you go to school and pick a grade, how about ninth grade, or even pick a school? Have you noticed that intelligence just seems to break down such that not everyone has the same degree of intelligence, that some have more intelligence than others? See, I think that's just a perfectly accurate statement on not assigning, any sort of personal characteristics to this. So we need to kind of get back to making people listen. And as you guys know that ever since the internet and so ever since time became digitized, everybody wants more of it because it just seems to always be going. And this, again, I'll tell about my old friend from Riverside. And actually, we'll rephrase an old friend from Newport Beach, a fellow named Dick Brown. And Dick was just a man among men, soft spoken, you know, maybe $500 million worth, just a decent guy. And even Dick Brown knew right from wrong. But anyway, but the reason I bring up Dick Brown is, every now and then he throws some money my way, and we would chat. Depending on what I was doing, he throws some money my way, and I told him, Dick, at this point, how old are you? He thinks he's at 86 or something like that. And I said, Dick, at this point, if I'm worth your time, I'm clearly worth your money because you got much more money left than time. Uh, and I want to kind of, you know, let everybody know about that your time is valuable. And if you can use it to do something good, all the better for you. I would hope that you believe somewhat in the notion of karma. And it's kind of easy to, kind of slough that off when you're younger. And, what comes around goes around and all that. But it takes living decades before you can really see how these things work out. And, usually it works out for everybody. And I also have this thing about the American West. And I always think that people are happier out here because it's the kind of, in a lot of places you'll get 300 days of sunshine a year or more. And I think that a completely sunny environment like that makes people pretty happy, as opposed to those bitter cold New England and, and upper, cold and snow. And, I was talking to somebody that I think actually she's from Leeds in the UK, and her husband and they settled in Huntington Beach. And, it's, they're just, how can I put this? Oh, anyway, we'll finish that thought later. But yeah, so anyway, she's from Leeds, and we chat every now and then about what the perception. What does she hear from the folks back home? So she would show me a few headlines, and trust me, what they're saying about us, I don't think is respect. I don't think those guys are just ready to kiss the old American behind as much as Trump will like to order them to kiss the old American behind. While we're talking about old things, I want to thank everybody who checked out my music video today. I did a rocking, instead of Psycho Killer from the Talking Heads. Of course, mine was Donald, Psycho Donald. And I think it started out with something like Trump can't seem to face up to the facts. Da-da-da. Facts that Iran's got us by the old nutsack. How about that? Can't tell him anything. He always lies. Something, something, something. His brain is fried. Oh. Sorry, guys, but that's the most recent post, and we're up at Instagram.com at Democracy Radio Network, and you will catch us. And now, just for a little general musical inspiration, I want to submit a little psych up music for the midterms. Here it is.
Roll those Republicans. We're going to 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 roll those Republicans every time.
So, guys, I hope you consider that some sort of rock and roll inspiration from your old host here, Abby Kaufman. And we are, and the phone lines are open at 949 So, if you got a thought on where we are, where we got, how we got here, and where we're going, or how to get out of it, give us a call, 949 We're always anxious to hear other people's solutions. And just out of curiosity, does how many people think that Lindsey Graham did not die a aorta or an aorta dissection or whatever it is? Now I'm gonna after the looking at the weekend at Bernie's picture, I wasn't too sure, uh, but I think that we can sort things out and we can have uh, you know, clean, decent food. We don't have to worry about explosive diarrhea. It's funny nowadays. We're not nearly as concerned with explosive diarrhea as we are with RHK Jr. Or RFK Jr. doing whatever it is he's doing in the Department of Health because he just doesn't get it. And sometimes these conspiracy theorists are unable to declare they made a mistake. Unless I run into them fairly frequently, which is surprising out here. Uh, but what I would really like to see, I like to see two top-notch law schools. It could be, and I would even go so far as to pick Cal, Berkeley, and Stanford. And I think that's and have each flip a coin, see who gets to prosecute the January 6th case and see who gets to defend the January 6th case, and let's just kind of see what it looks like. Play the evidence, introduce it. You guys can do this, and I'm going to say that if you thought that the January 6th hearings were riveting, you would not believe what that is. So, or that will be. So, if as how about Erwin? Erwin, can you hear me? Erwin Chemerinsky, the dean at Bolt Hall, UC Berkeley Law School. Uh, so, Erwin, I know you used to be the dean at UCI Law School, and of course, Bolt Hall is much more prestigious. And like I said, you guys can defend, Stanford can prosecute, or be the other way around, drawn out of a hat, and let's show it to people. Let's try it in the court of public opinion and see whether the verdict comes down as a violent day at the Capitol, insurrection type, or if it was just a nice, calm, peaceful stroll through the halls of Congress like Trump keeps trying to push. And guys, there's so many lies involved here that we're always a little, that the term the big lie can have multiple meanings, but giving Jamie Raskin the benefit of the doubt uh, that what was I going to say? Oh yeah, that if that was an insurrection, if that was an insurrection, then let's just go forward with it. The evidence is there, and I just think it'd be great, and it'd be really cool to kind of participate in the jury deliberations just to hear what goes on, because you never know what goes on in a jury room. Uh, but guys, I didn't get back. I'd like to wrap this show up, even though I'll go as long as I can. I remember I was talking about the importance of school board races, and there's also another race that I think is important, hugely important, and it's the state superintendent of education. And there is a woman named Nichelle Henderson who's running, and she's from Gardena, California. And I would like to give her a shout out and just say that I think she's a great person for the job. Uh, we endorse her proudly and hope everybody else can come out on November 2nd or before and vote, and let's get these bums out of office. We've never had a president that didn't look forward or backward, that just was all about himself. And let's say James Carville is right. And James Carville predicted that around April or so of next year, a couple months after the new Congress gets sworn in, that Trump's going to be so upset that he can't get anything done with the Democrat Senate and Congress, that he's just going to walk away. He's going to take his $2 billion windfall and leave. Well, Donald, you're a crook. The United States just doesn't let crooks live happily ever after. And I don't know how you color the argument that the money spent at your hotel was not meant to influence you. And that why people, I mean, don't you hold events there? Don't you walk through every now and then? Not unlike Mar-a-Lago. Um, but like I said, the truth of the matter is, the Republicans come down to being butt kissing or butt kissers for Trump. And we as Democrats, we can't let that go. And I would hope the vast majority of Republicans aren't happy about that. And and this is to all the Democratic socialists and progressive Democrats out there. We get it, and we are completely open to your candidates. As a matter of fact, we'd love to have you guys on for a chat. If you want to keep coming, if you want to book a steady gig, that's fine too. But that's what we need to do. We need to take this thing apart and rebuild it, and just try to make it a better result. There's no guarantees unless it's going to be hugely expensive, and according to Trump, we can't pay for Medicare and Medicaid, so how can we pay for this? And the truth of the matter is, he could care less about people on Medicare and Medicaid. He just wants a lot of guns and bullets because it makes him feel good, looks like a strong man. Uh, but we really, it's time we made a statement, guys. And the statement is, this is America, and you are treading on us. You remember the "Don't Tread on America" thing? Well, Trump is the one doing it. I mean, just to think about taking over the Strait of Hormuz from Iran and charging period, much less 20% toll. Um, how does that make us stronger and them weaker? Yeah, I'm not really sure. Yeah, and that's the problem. Is Trump always comes down to credibility with what he says, and I'll repeat this again. Credibility comes from the Latin. I think it's credibilitas or something like that, and it stands for it means worthy of being believed. And if you kind of look at any given situation, and Trump says something, is he worthy of being believed? Well, I don't think so. I mean, does seem like the guy kind of lies more than lies more than a shelter full of dogs. I mean, the guy's just, and everybody knows. It's not like they don't know he's insane. And let's get those. Tell you what, let's get those cognitive tests out there, and let's congratulate Donald for being able to tell an elephant from a giraffe. 3 times in a row he did it. He told the elephant. He was able to distinguish between the elephant and the giraffe. I wouldn't have bet on that, but at that point he gets classified as whatever it is. So, and or how about the old dinosaur way back when, with a long, huge tail, big body, and a little pea brain. And I think the brain needs like a 2-hour head start to tell the tail to wag because it takes that long for the nerve impulse to get there. But see, with Trump, we have no idea what's going on with his nerve impulses at all in his brain, other than the fact that they're, clearly distorted and not the kind of thing you'd want to participate in as a general proposition. So, guys, I want to give a final shout out to our guys and Democrats abroad. Kara Stewart, Councilwoman, candidate for Costa Mesa. Dr. Kelly Brown, also running for office for city council from Costa Mesa. Oh, and how about, I almost forgot. How about Jesse Lopez from Santa Ana? The truth about it is there are so many great candidates in just Orange County, much less California, that we just can't wait to start getting them on and let it roll. Anyway, guys, it's been fun. Thanks a million. My voice is starting to leave. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do the usual thing, and I think at this